Hey, all you rad dads out there.
Tim, welcome to the Rad Dad Show. Who are you?
My name is Tim Barry. I live in Virginia, in the city of Richmond. I play music. That's kind of what I've done for most of my life, and had a million jobs in between tours, like a lot of folks who play music. I have two awesome kids, Leela Jane, who just turned 9, and Coralie, who just turned 7. And I love being a dad.
Awesome. I
My
love
greatest achievement. I always think I've been around the world 100 times. I've done loops around the country more times than I can imagine. I've been all through Canada. I've been everywhere. But man, my greatest accomplishment is dadding, without a doubt. I love it.
We're gonna say it's the greatest accomplishment is rad dadding. Do you consider yourself a rad dad?
I don't use the word rad much. I don't know why. It's maybe such a West Coast thing. We don't really say rad. We say y'all. But yeah, rad dad, that works.
So, like, would you consider yourself one? And we're a bit ambiguous with that question in terms of that definition. You know, how would you define a rad dad?
I don't know, but I know that the parents that I surround myself with are hardworking and deeply love their children, and I would say that that's pretty rad. I do see some parents struggle with their duties, and that's difficult to watch. And certainly hard to be around sometimes, but definitely, like, we all have our struggles and we all have our limitations, but putting the kids first and prioritizing them, I think, is the best and the raddest approach with parenting. And we all have so many different styles too. So, like, with your 10-year-old, how do you consider yourself rad? What do you do that gives you the label?
A few, when I initially kind of concocted that question, my interest was, I guess, pursuing my own interests and being a better person, which allowed me to be a better father. And so, I do this on the side. I play in a band as well, like a cover band for fun. And so I guess I pursue my interests, but not at the sake of, my son or being, it just made me a better person. And I think me being a better person makes me a better dad. So that's kind of where it was initially. And I guess it still kind of is, but then also having a number of conversations with all of the people on the show, one of the themes that comes up with this particular question is the fact of just being present. And to me, I'm present with my son whenever I have him all the time. I am involved with his hockey. I coach. I get involved with his school. I'm a school teacher, and so I'm really interested in his education, and so I have an involvement and have these expectations of him, that sort of thing. So it's the involvement piece, but also kind of taking time for myself, I guess, what I would.
Does he go to the school that you teach at?
No, I'm a high school teacher. He's
Okay.
and then the other thing too, I guess I should mention, is that I have him half time, so it's a week on, week off arrangement that I have with my ex. And
do you find that schedule to be difficult, the 7 days apart?
Well, and here's the thing, going back in terms of the involvement piece, initially it was because we've been kind of separated from when he was around 3 or 4. It was hard. Well, we had a different schedule then, but when he was going into school, we we want him to have more stability. So it was hard, but what I found is I just got more involved in his stuff. So, like, we put him in hockey, I'm going to coach him. So if I have him, don't have him for the week, I'm going to see him.
I got it. That's fantastic, because I am in the same situation as you. My girl's mother and I are not together, but our schedule's super eclectic. But I like it that way because I'm never away from the girls for more than a couple days at a time. Um, but yeah, the week, like once a year when they go to the beach or something like that, I really kind of can't handle it. Like it's like a strange detox to not be around the kids for that long. And I can see where you and your relationship with your son benefit from it, because then you have the ability to go do band stuff and whatnot, but you're still seeing him consistently with 2 practices, maybe 3 practices and a game a week. That's great.
Yeah, it works. His mom and I have known each other since we were in junior high, so over 30 years now, and we have just a good relationship, a good co-parenting relationship. And now he's at the age where his school is really close to my house, and so he walks to school when he's with me and walks home. And even when he's with her, he walks to my house. So after school, and she'll pick him up. So if she's running late, and I might see him even those days, right? And so
It's so cool.
If I was like to have a recommendation to people in that sort of situation, the co-parenting and just communication, it took us a while to get there for sure. But
Yep.
If you have a partner that ex-partner or whatever, that we always put our kid first, and that's ultimately what it came to be.
So that's the most important thing always. What you were talking about earlier, I was thinking about this today. I go running every morning, and if I don't, my brain just doesn't work the way it should. And so like this morning was a typical morning, get the girls up for school, drop them off, come home, at least do like a quick run exercise, even if it's just a walk. And then that's sort of like my morning coffee, and then my day starts. I'm a better dad when I get the chance to do things like exercise. It relieves so much stress, and it gets my thoughts straight. And I notice that if I don't do that, I have a shorter fuse. I'm more lethargic. We're not as active. And that's something I've been trying to suggest to folks who get a little pent up with their parenting, is to always, it's even, if I can do this alone and still get a chance to go on a walk, people who have like life partners and stuff like that can dude, you just got to take that minute and go on a walk, or go on a run, or play hockey, or shoot the basketball, or whatever it is that makes you tick. And making goals, whatnot. I think it helps so much. I'm glad that you have the ability to do that, and sitting and playing music, or listening to music, or enjoying it, if that was the root of how you fell into like sort of the counterculture or DIY, and sharing it with your kids. We play music at the house a lot. They're not really taking off. They're writing a ton of songs, but they're not, did we have such a short attention spans? I don't know. But when I put a guitar in their hands, they're so interested, but if it doesn't work instantly, they just set it right back down. But they both can write 100 songs. You should hear them. They're incredible. In fact, Leela wrote her first song when she was 5. It's on one of my records. She just sang on my newest record. Coralie is writing songs like crazy. It's so fun to hear what they're singing about too. But they're not learning instruments.
That's rad. My son he does piano, and the same sort of thing. Like a lot of my friends are musicians. One of my best friends has like a recording studio in his basement, and we've taken him there a few times. And that's where my band, we were a Bad Religion cover band, and so we practiced there. Our first gig for that band was like we called it an all ager rager. We had like 20 little kids, like 3, 4, 5 years old, like in the mosh pit. And so talking about like sharing. So, I would go back to that question you asked me. So, being involved, taking time for yourself, and also I want to be able to share the things that I love with my kid. And but at the same time, like, not be overbearing. If he's not really into skateboarding per se, I'm not going to force him to do
Yeah.
that. How is that with music? Like, is that
Well,
something that you want them to do, or is it just?
yeah, I believe in exposing them to everything, almost like an unschooling technique, where you kind of give them the opportunity to touch and see and hear everything and make their own decisions of how deeply they want to get into it. The only thing that we don't do is use phones or computers, like iPhones and computers at our house. They don't have iPads. They don't have, they have an old iPod that they listen to. We use vinyl records. It's not that I'm a Luddite as much as it is anytime that they've touched computers or phones, they're intuitive. It's not something that they have to take time to learn. They can pick up an iPod or an iPad in 10 minutes, have the thing mastered. So I don't feel like it's necessary for me to present that to them right now, because when the time is necessary for them to use them, they'll figure them out really quickly. So what I surround them with is things that are a little more complicated. Like we have instruments around. If they pick them up and ask, I'll show how to alternate the bass strings. Or if they're interested in recording something, I'll do that for them. Or how to fish, or shoot a BB gun, or the American Civil War was fought right in this area. So we go out and we relic hunt with metal detectors and find old bullets. And this is a very historic city. There's houses, within 30-mile radiuses that are built in the 1700s. So we go out and bottle dig for old bottles. And we take the boats out. It's just endless. We go on nature walks, we do tree identification and butterfly identification, and we plant gardens. And like a project that we're working on is we live across the street from an old folks home that is folks that would have lived in government funded housing projects when they were younger, or later lost money. So it's poorer elderly folks. So they have limitations with transportation and other sort of needs, where they can't get around as well as they should. So we've taken over city property and planted gardens. We're starting to plant gardens all around their apartment complex, so that they can just walk out and pick fresh vegetables, things like that sort of give back to the community, as opposed to forcing things upon them. Just giving them the opportunity to see how you can change things with little small gestures, like planting a vegetable garden for folks who can't get around too well, to like understanding the nature and the structure of the things that you're surrounded by, and how you got to where you are by investigating the past. We just had the Confederate monuments in most of Central Virginia removed over the summer. And we got to explore that aspect of history. We got to see, we got to study what all of the horses on the statues' names were and roles were in the war. And then we got to watch the removal of well, we didn't go to the actual removals, but we got to see them before and after. So just, for me, it's about the experience that we share. I also would think back, like, I got two friends, Alex and Jason, who both have kids coming within the next few weeks. And I'm being reminded of the nervousness that anticipation induces, and then how your human nature takes over. and the baby's there, and then your instincts kick in. And I'm being reminded about the anticipation of thinking how drastic your life will change when the baby shows up, and how what I always suggest to new parents and new dads is you just take them on the ride with you. If you love to go camping on the other side of the river, bring your kid. You can still do it. And it's actually more fun when you have your baby with you. Or if you like to go on road trips just randomly to the mountains because the leaves are changing, go. Don't stop. If you want to fly to Florida to play a festival, bring your kids. It's awesome. Then they get to meet all your crazy musician friends, as long as it's a safe environment.
I love that so much. That's like, that epitomizes really what we try to, I guess, model with the whole Rad Dads thing. Is like, I got tired of people like using kids as an excuse for not doing what they want to do. Or it's like, yeah, like I'm into punk rock music, like that. It changed my life going to shows when I was like 13. I want my son to experience that. Do I want him to be a punk rocker? No, but I want him to have experience of like experiencing live music, and then maybe finding an interest there. And so I started a band, and we had kids come, because there's not very many all ages shows. And so the dads can bring their kids, because we make it welcome from them. Oh, or, you know, have hosted a skateboard night in the summer. Every Sunday we would have, hey dads, I want to go skateboarding, bring your kids too. So there was a bunch of kids skateboarding that got to meet each other, and the dads hanging out.
And then you get to build a network, which is, especially during well, can I interject real quick and say, I love using my kids as an excuse to not do certain things.
I get that too.
I don't like going out at night. I'm ready for bed at 9. So if there's a show coming through town and I don't feel like going, I'll be like, got the kids, can't go. Can't argue with me. But I also will say I just don't feel like going, because I don't like lying. But if I don't have the kids that night. But yeah, man, like you're reminding me of Greg and Shanti had started that Playdate band.
Yeah, I interviewed Greg. Yeah.
Did you interview them?
Yeah, Greg, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a real hoot when they started doing that. And I've always gone and played at schools, right? Which is hilarious, because if you've ever listened to my music other than Avail, it's the most abrasive, raunchiest folk music. I gotta say that, like, when I started writing all these solo songs, I never planned on releasing them. So there's a lot of bad words. There's a lot of strange content in them. But so it sounds funny that I'll go and play at schools. But starting a few years ago, when I was playing at my daughter's school, that's when I noticed that my oldest daughter, Leela, started wearing my old Avail shirts and things like that. And I mean, Coralie is a, you know, she loves to dress up. She loves pink. She loves all that. But we had a birthday party the other day, and Leela's in all black with the side of her head shaved, wearing, you know, like punk clothes, like a what is the shirt? A Misfit shirt. And so even if I don't want them to be a punk, they might be growing up that way. But, you know, I guess especially during the difficult last almost 2 years now with the pandemic, it is important to have these outside sort of gatherings, like you're talking about, the skate park and stuff like that, and build a network of you know, a bubble of when people are available to get together and stuff. That's so important for the kids to still have those social bonds. And what a blessing to have skateboarding. We ride bikes like BMX and stuff like that. That's kind of what's most available right in our immediate vicinity, although there's great skate parks here too. But yeah, it's great to have those outdoor options. And we all are pretty lucky that we live in a grouping of people that embraces that kind of stuff. Because I mean, just in my own neighborhood, there's kids who've never been exposed to even the river that's 1 block away, which is shocking to me. or that they don't know that there's like a BMX course down at the bottom of the hill, or that 4 blocks away there's a skate park, So we are also proactive, coming up the way that we have, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's something about punk, how you fall into it and what you take from it is sort of, it sticks with you no matter what phase in life you're at. And I think that sort of proactive drive to do things is one of them. I got to move this for a second, so hang with me. This is a part of the pandemic that I couldn't avoid, and that is getting kittens.
Oh, pandemic pets.
Pandemic pets. The girls bugged me for so long. This is Dum Dum. That's Dum Dum. You can hear her. She's like 6 pounds. She hasn't grown at all, and she just plays in the middle of the street chasing her tail. My neighbors will text and be like, she's about to get hit by a car again. Just like, well, she's not living in a cage at the animal shelter. So
okay, I'll keep going with some of these questions. You've kind of touched on a lot of the stuff I was going to ask you about, so maybe we'll transition. Did fatherhood change you, and what?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm sure that you can vouch. Maybe this is something that all parents say, but I have 2 distinct lives. There's the life before I was a dad, and the life after that. And I like the dad life better. I'm healthier. I'm happier. I feel more driven. Even if their cats drive me crazy. Yeah, I mean, 2 different lives. I mean, it's like, it really, like, the accomplishments that I made with music, like, personal ones, not financial rewards or record sales or popularity or anything like that. Again, like, I've gotten to do so much. I've learned so much. I've met so many great people. But when the kids came, it was like, music is still like one of the biggest factors in my life, but I started doing it in like a way that was based around the kids' needs. And 2 different lives. It's like the old life is a weird dream, and this is reality.
How did it? You mentioned it said it made you healthier and more driven. Why more driven? Seems like does that?
Well, driven with a different perspective. Driven to I don't know how to explain this. And you can ask my neighbors. They think I'm nuts. They think that I'm almost at fault for how I prioritize the kids over my own needs and well-being. And those are also neighbors without children. So they don't know the feelings that you gain personally from the watching your kids flourish and learn and be happy. It's like the great. It's impossible to understand love until you truly have. And when I mean driven, I mean I'm driven by the love of my children and the love for my children to be healthier, to live as long as I possibly can, to provide for them, to let them provide for themselves. It's the motivation and drive to bring them the best in life that they can handle, but also not to pamper them. There's an Irish saying, I can't remember, paraphrase it. It's a child whose parent does everything for them is doomed for life. So the kids do have to do things. They can't just lay around and ask me to bring them more water.
I could attest that, being a high school teacher for 20 plus years, you definitely see the wide range of gamut of parenting styles and how it has an influence on their students. And sometimes you have to parents the parents being a teacher. So I get that. Yeah.
You know, I've learned with things like, pampering, because it's impossible not to just want to coddle your kids, even as they get older, is to just reward the hell out of them whenever they do something without being asked to. It could be something as simple as like the hand towel, putting a new hand towel on the rack, and just, what the good, I can't believe you did that. That's fantastic. You know what I mean? They'll do it again and again and again. It's great. Cleaning up, making the table, taking everything off the table, doing the dishes. My Coralie, who's 7 now, has been responsible for starting the laundry since she was 5. She can put everything in, put the soap in, turn it on, close it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, got it. And when she does that without asking, that's when the super praise comes in, and then they do things for themselves. I love parenting, like, tips like that. I never read the books. I've never read the books, but I love listening to how other people solve problems.
Yeah, me too. And that's what I've enjoyed so much about like having these conversations, having the show. It's like, I'm hopeful people listen to it, because I put some time in it and you give your time, but I walk away more from, if I look at all the interviews that I've done, all of these kind of little tips and tidbits that I've walked away from, it's just made me a more reflective father for sure.
I didn't get a chance to listen through. I popped on to Brian, a little bit of Brian's, because he's a close friend. And then there was another one where I just heard the sort of like overview, the bullet point, and that was just attached to your Instagram. And I don't know who it was, but they were saying, it's not like the words or the argument or the frustration or the happiness that the child remembers. It's the feeling of safety. And it was a really, really profound sort of like statement in its simplicity, and it's truth. It's kind of crazy, the truth that comes from that.
Did you always want to be a dad?
Oh no, hell no. I was living pretty rough. I mean, always sort of been paycheck to paycheck, always most often in between tours, doing odd jobs, house full of people, riding freight trains, sleeping in the woods. I mean, just rough, chaotic life, which was sort of like my instinct. Like, that's just kind of, I've spent most of my life on the road, sleeping on the floor in squats in Europe and stuff like that. But I fell in love, and the woman that I was with, I knew from the beginning that she really wanted children, and she too is a school teacher, and just I loved her so much. And a part of love is hearing where other people are coming from, and she never encouraged it, but my brain started adapting to the idea, and my niece was born, and some other friends had kids, and it all just started making sense. And then we were married, and then it was very intentional. So no, beforehand, no. But it's funny how you feel about someone can really change your perspectives on things in a positive way. In no way was I cornered, no way was I forced. It was just based on my love for a person. I also think, like, and this is on parenting and off parenting world, is like that life is kind of, I'm always trying to figure out how to explain this. Like, it's like a maze of phases. There's so many phases that we go through, and some people are embarrassed by certain phases in their lives, but they're all stepping stones. They're all times that you learn from. And whether I wanted children in the immediate time before I had them, before that those perspectives changed or not, is sort of irrelevant to the fact that, like, now that they're here, it's my motivation, you know. Now, if these cats could just stay outside. I don't know if any of that makes sense.
No, it does.
I often babble. I don't talk a lot, and I don't do podcasts, but maybe once a year. And I don't have too many close friends. So it's when I start talking, I don't always make sense. But yeah, I like the phase that I'm at, and I don't regret the phase I was at when, you know, I was conscious of the idea of not having children, because I wasn't at a spot for it. And there's also something to be said about, you know, growing up, I have friends who had kids, you know, at 17 years old. We all do, but you know, you either had them at 17, and now it seems like you either have them at 17. Around here, you have them at 17, or now you're waiting till you're like in your mid or late 30s. And the people I know who had kids when they were 17 are suddenly unleashed on the world now. And I don't know if it's better or worse to do one or the other, but I guess I needed to get that raising hell out of my body before I was ready personally to have kids. And I'm glad I got those things out of my system, because I'm ready to just be a dad.
Curl up at 8 o'clock, watch a movie time.
I mean, I went down, I played my first show recently since the shutdowns, and I went down and played Fest in Florida. And when I saw that my stage time was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I couldn't have been happier. Chuck, I showed up, you know, to the venue to set up merch at like noon, and Chuck was there, Chuck Reagan, and we were talking. I was like, "What the hell? You already lost your voice?" And he's like, "Oh, I had to play at 12:45 this morning." And I was like, "Fuck that! Those days are done. Put me on at 3, and then the kids can come."
Yeah, I agree. I get that too. Like we the band, we played like a bands show at Halloween, and one of the guys wanted to have a later time slot, and I was like, you know, I was fighting. I'm like, no, man, I want to be home. Like, get me to. That's even with shows that come through. You know, I still love to go see live music and see shows, and then when I find out that, you know, doors not till like 9 or 10 o'clock, I'm just like, like that means they're probably not coming on till 1 a.m. Like, I want to see a band. I want to be home 10 o'clock.
You know, when Leela was born, shortly after that, I had the realization, like, as I'm touring, so I was still touring real hard up until Leela was born. In fact, when Leela was born, when she was about 3 months old, I went over and toured all of the UK with Frank Turner for 3 weeks. And that's the longest tour I did since the girls have been born. And when I got back from that and I was touring in the US, they kept pushing for me to be bar fodder, you know, to nine or 10 doors, as you're saying, on stage at midnight. And it's just like, that's not why I'm doing this. And the people who come to the shows are grown-ups. So you're actually going to do better. Do you know what I'm saying? I started thinking, like, this isn't working for the people coming, and it's not working for me. And because I don't give two craps about the music industry or my role in it, I decided that all of my shows, the doors are going to be 7 and I'm on stage at 9 from now on. And if the venue can't accommodate that schedule for the grown-ups, the parents who have babysitters at home, and for me, then I just won't play their venue. I have an acoustic guitar. I can play wherever I want. I can play in a parking lot or a park. I prefer to play in a venue where people can have a meal and have a couple drinks and listen to music, and then be home by 10 and relieve the babysitter. And I've done it since then. Since that day, I announced it. My ticket sales shot through the roof, because you may have thought twice about not going to the show where the doors are at 9, but you're like, hell, I can watch the whole set and be asleep by 10:30. And even if you don't like my crappy Kumbaya 3-chord hippie music, you still get to go hang out with your friends.
Yeah.
And that has worked. And I encourage other people who play music or do anything like that to just change the rules. when you play at a venue, they're hosting your party. You're paying rent on it. Instead, I think growing up with punk, you always think they're doing you a favor, but truthfully, they're capitalizing off of your art. So you can work in kind, and give respect where it's due. But in the end, if you're paying a percentage of the door cut or a flat fee, they're hosting your event, and your event should be based on the times that work best for the people who come to your shows and your children. Because if I'm playing a show in Richmond, I want to get home.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much, being a parent too. Like I was listening to a radio station yesterday, actually, and the morning host, two dads, and they were posing the question of what have you quit that you didn't think you'd miss? And they were talking about that, the fact that they used to go to a lot of concerts when they were younger, but both of them being dads and working a morning show where they have to be up at 4 a.m. to be at work, they don't go to concerts anymore, or see bands that they like. And I was like, oh, that's such a bummer. Like the fact that you can't do that. They were happy with their life and whatnot. They didn't really miss it, but me, I would miss it. And I'm the same. Like I have a situation where, like, if a band's coming through and I do have my son, my ex will usually take him, say, I want to go to the show, and she'll say, oh yeah, you can stay with me. So I have that opportunity, but I get it. And then the other thing too, like, how do you feel about like all ages shows? I find that there's like there used to be, when I was growing up, a lot more all age venues. I don't know what it's like in the States, but here it seemed to transition. A lot of the bigger bands coming through do play 18 plus, and it kind of bums me out because I would like to bring my son, like you said. I want to bring my kid with me.
I don't know that I've studied, like, because the people who come to my shows are over 21. I mean, they're 21 to, like, it's a very broad age demographic. I mean, the people in their 60s come to the shows. And the shows are always generally in pretty small venues. But so I haven't looked deeply into the all ages aspect with my own shows, but man, I can't tell you how many shows that I play that it's becoming generational, and the parents are bringing their kids. And so usually the kids can camp out on stage. I mean, I'm just trying to think of Richmond. I'm not going to think of anywhere else right now. But when I play Richmond, it's got a ton of kids there. So it has to be an all ages venue, or they're turning their head. Yeah.
Cool.
But it also serves alcohol and has food. So, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of the best of all the worlds, where it's like a grown up enough environment where like the whole family can come, and I can just watch my dirty mouth a little bit.
What's the most rewarding aspects of being a dad?
I can't dig too deep in my memory bank, but I'm going to say that that changes daily. I'm going to tell you this: the most rewarding part this week has been watching Leela's complete overwhelming happiness with being on her first sports team. And last week it was Coralie, who's 7, has a lot of difficulty reading. We read all the time. We do daddy school, which is, whoa, this is the other cat that just stepped on the computer. We do daddy school, where we like work on letters and putting letters together and stuff like that. I don't know if it helps, but I think maybe like her writing letters and stuff all the time will help improve her understanding of reading. But the most rewarding thing with her recently was I was laying in Leela's room reading to her at bedtime. I read to Leela first, then I go and read to Coralie. And Coralie had picked up one of our field guides, a bird field guide, like an identification field guide, and she walked into Leela's room while I was reading, and she went female, and pointed to the field guide of a female bird, and then she went male, and it's the first time I've positively ID'd her as reading and not memorizing or mimicking. She read the two damn words, the full word first and then the root word second, and I burst into tears. And that was the most rewarding thing with both of my children recently. And today that may change again. So I don't know overall it's rewarding, but I love little things like that. And I also like to consider little things like that, as parents, to never take those situations for granted or just like wave them off, because you never know when it's the last time that something's going to happen. Like your son's 10, Leela's 9. When is she not going to wake up and want to snuggle with me? When's the last time I get to like hold my 9-year-old or 10-year-old like and snuggle her? When is she going to be embarrassed to wear her daddy's stupid punk shirts to school? When is Coralie going to just read every word that she can find? And it was the last time she needs me to sit with her and work on the letters. Or, when's the last time she's going to give me a morning hug, which is like our tradition. We do like morning hug, and she jumps up on me. And I think that's really important as parents and as dads, to always never take the little things like that for granted. Like, everyone who has kids that are, say, in their 20s or whatever, every adult who has adult children is going to say, like, it goes so quick. But those little things that are the last time, we can't take for granted ever.
I agree with that. It's it'll come. I think I'm slowly seeing a shift in my son. I say he's going on 10, but some days I'm like, oh my God, you're like a 16-year-old. Like, but so I totally relate to that, and I also see that too with students, who aren't my kids, but my students. I've taught junior high, which is here it's grade 7 to 9, which would be 12 to 14. And so that's a lot different than a high school, and just how, they treat their parents or talk about their parents and things like that too. So yeah, hold on to those moments for sure.
Yeah. I had that the other day. We went to a birthday party, and Leela looked at me, and she looked at me up and down, and she goes, "You're going to wear that?" The first time she'd ever done that. Oh my Lord.
So then what, do you go on the extreme and just kind of embarrass them a little bit?
Oh yeah, I did the flip. I put on like nice pants and a nice Fred Perry shirt. And she's like, "Buttons like on the shirt?" I was like, "You don't know how cool the shirt is."
That's hilarious. Are you comfortable talking about the relationship with your dad?
Oh yeah, he's great. He's great. My dad, he was not very present. He can vouch for that, I'm sure. He was, he was in the military, and then worked for the government after that, but not for long. And he has done a lot of different jobs, but most of them he hasn't. He worked a lot. He did coach the soccer team that we were on, and it was just different times, and abilities to be present. I have to, let me just jump off my dad for a second and stress that the position I'm in is one of the most lucky that any parent can be in, with how I make money, because I do run my own small business, And because of that, I can put the priority on the kids. And because I'm happily divorced, I can choose to do the majority of that work when the children are with their mother. So I kind of have this all in situation. So when I say that my dad wasn't as present, say, as I am, that's with the understanding that he had to work a regular job. And that's what most parents do. I love my dad dearly. He's still running around doing his thing. And man, we have the best relationship. He's the best grandfather. Man, I can't speak any more highly of him. I look up to him in ways that he'll probably never understand. Every day I become more like him. And as opposed to many people who abhor the idea of becoming their parents, I embrace it because I think he's awesome.
That's nice. Has he influenced your parenting style?
No, because I believe he's been a fantastic parent because he has done nothing but supported the phases that I've gone through without interjecting and saying you shouldn't do something. He never said you shouldn't waste your time playing that crappy punk music. But if I wanted to get a drum kit, I had to buy it myself. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that comes across now is in a sense that I'm not trying to guide my children down a path, as many parents do. I really am emulating my dad's style in the sense that he watches, and the only time that he would interject is if there was a safety issue.
And are you like that with your girls?
Yeah, but I'm also constantly terrified that they're going to fall off the ninja line or break their head open riding a BMX bike or do something like that. I did just get them one of those ninja lines. Have you ever tried those things?
Like the zip lines?
No, a ninja line is like a slack line, like a ratchet strap. Basically, you put between two trees, and it has things that you can, like jungle gym.
Okay, yeah.
And I watch them out there. Instead of them doing the jungle gym thing, they're climbing and going all the way up it and ending up in the emergency room, checking to see if their hands are broken after falling.
I get it. In my son's 10 years, he's broken his elbow twice. Once at the monkey bars at school and get a call. And then one just recently, actually, at the beginning of the hockey season, he was, it was just after hockey practice, and me and some of the dads were just chatting outside the rink, and there was a park, and they wanted to go to the park, and somebody, yeah, go ahead, go to the park. And he was jumping the fence, and he got twisted up on the top, and sure enough fell down. Your heart just like, and he's a pretty tough kid, and like, you know, can kind of shake things off, but he wasn't shaking this off. And so you immediately like start to panic, and that fear that you mentioned, sure enough, took him to the hospital.
You're almost like, I hope it's just a broken, is it the same fracture?
It was the same arm. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So he was in a cast for 6 weeks, got it off a couple of weeks ago, but I get that fear. You know, let them do what they want to do, but yeah, the safety for sure. Few more questions. You kind of mentioned, like you said, you're one of the longest tours with Frank Turner, the 3 weeks. Like, how do you deal with being away from your kids? Obviously, it's probably changed over the pandemic and you not being out there as much, but is that something you just kind of deal with as a musician? Is kind of part of the territory?
I should preface it by saying that, like, that pandemic sucked, but that time I got to spend with the girls, it was like by far the best case scenario of, like, I got to spend almost 2 years with my children without me traveling at all. It was insane. I got to see so much development and so many changes in them. I got to see them go from little kids to like young adults. It was really neat, and I'll never get that time back. It's great. I'm so thankful in some ways for the way this all went down. Traveling will be a challenge 2022 if things continue to be safe, or if they grow safer, is going to be a pretty hectic year for me. All of my decisions with music have been made based on the health of the community that I'm surrounded by. Mainly the little school that they go to. They don't go to a public school. I have them in a different school, and it's very small. And I have decided consciously to not take any risks with playing shows that could possibly get me sick, because then that could affect the entire school in a negative way. And that's something that no one needs to happen over something as trivial as music can be. Just 2022 is looking like it's going to be busy, and that's going to be a new challenge of like how to manage that. I will not leave them for more than a week, which it's not, before this, it wasn't uncommon for me to like drop them off at school, drive to the airport, fly to San Francisco on a Friday, play on a Saturday, fly home on Sunday, pick them up from school on Monday. And that was like a really not uncommon schedule for me. Or if I was in a vehicle, drop them off at school on Friday, play Baltimore on Friday night, play New York City on Saturday, play Philadelphia on Sunday, drive home, pick them up at school on Monday. So that's sort of how I've approached it. One time I was actually up in Edmonton. I did like maybe a 2-week tour with Murder by Death. That was Southern California up into BC and Alberta, and maybe down to Calgary. Like, and that was about 2 weeks total. Yeah, I flew out of Calgary, and that's the second longest trip I've done in 9 years.
Oh wow.
Which is crazy, because if you look at my tour schedules, it looks like I'm gone like all the time, but I'm really, I call it puddle jumping. I'm really going and coming right back. I went over with hot water to Europe one time. That was seriously, I was gone maybe a week. So my long tour days are done. Now I base the schedules around the kids. I just turned down an inquiry from the Menzingers, who I love and haven't gotten a chance to do like support for them, but it wasn't good with the family schedule. So that's just kind of where I'm at right now. And that's how I'll always be from now on.
I wonder, like, do you see, like, so the Menzingers, they're a relatively younger band. So I wonder if like older punk bands, like, I've talked to a number of musicians and in the same sort of thing, and they try to have a schedule. It's almost like we need to start like a dad or parent network between punk bands, where they go, okay, we want to tour, but we have our kids, let's tour for, 4 days at a time, head home.
Which is how I do it. I mean, really, again, when I said that, what I was talking about, like changing the times on shows, I completely took control. I grabbed it by the belt. I was like, this is how I'm going to do it. And if I get offers to do support, I have to say no based on the time gone. I can't, I'm not going to name drop. I'm not going to tell you specifics, but I've gotten offers from some of the greatest musicians in the world. And I look at, and the offers are like, in the bus with us, blah, blah, blah. And I look at them and I'm just like, I can't. And I tell them straight up, I'm not leaving my kids for that amount of time. And if you can't respect that, nobody's ever been felt disrespected by that. And that's just how it has to be. So like you say that we should have like a dad network of bands who do that. I'm doing that.
Awesome.
And I would wonder if you, I can guarantee you that if you looked back at tour dates from a handful of bands and saw them and studied how they've changed since kids have been born into those bands, many of them are the same as mine. And I can probably confidently say that the Bouncing Souls, Hot Water Music, all of my stuff, Oh man, the list is endless. None of them are touring for 5 weeks anymore. None of them are going out for 3 weeks anymore. It's like in and out. And if it seems like they're on a tour, they're flying home. They're weekend shows, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, things like that. I never really thought about that, but I bet you could put it all together. Unless you're traveling with your family, unless you're popular enough that you have a bus and your kids can come. Like I've seen Laura do that in the past, where she travels with her daughter and stuff like that. And that's because it's being safely done in a bus.
I know John Snodgrass was going to do that pre-pandemic. We were, he was going to bring his family up from Colorado up to do some shows in Calgary and Edmonton. We were trying to like organize like a Rad Dad's baseball game with him and stuff, and he was going to bring the family. And but yeah, pandemic put that, squash that. But the same sort of thing. Like he was willing to take his family, and how cool is that? Like make a few bucks along the way and have a great vacation seeing the Rocky Mountains. Okay, last two questions. What's next for you? You mentioned kind of the 2022, some shows coming up as things open up, but what about like music, albums? Are you writing new music?
Yeah, we're in a really weird spot with everything. I'm sure Canada is feeling the same crunch that we are with the supply chain. So I am done with a record. In fact, I'm done with a full-length record called Spring Hill and a 4-song 7-inch called Carolina's RV. And I am awaiting news about how it will be released, because it looks like you can't get physical product in, like vinyl. It's possible I wouldn't get vinyl in until 2023.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. I know that like Hot Water just announced the release of their new album, and the vinyl doesn't come in until October 2022. So mine hasn't even been shipped yet for manufacturing. So it's going to be a year before that stuff comes together. So in other words, I'm sort of hurry up and wait right now. I'm real excited about the recordings that I've done, and it's been fun to not have a deadline, to not have to put out a record with a deadline based on tour dates and things like that. Music has been very exciting and relaxing again, the way it should be, as opposed to like the push to get things done to support certain events and whatnot. So I'm always active in music, whether I release it or not. I don't know what possesses me to write so many songs, but I could record a whole nother record today if I felt like it. I just can't stop. So yeah, it's going to be busy for me because I'm going to do a lot of shows, and at some point I'll have this record out and just do it all over again.
I get it. Okay, last question, Tim. Are there any words of wisdom you'd like to leave for dads or future dads out there listening?
Words of wisdom? I don't know. I think maybe the two friends that I have who have kids coming in the next 3 weeks have heard all there is. Don't let the anticipation get to you. Your instincts will kick in the second the baby comes, and you will know exactly what to do until they fly out of the nest. And it's going to be a wild ride, but it's going to be rewarding in the end.
Awesome. We'll leave it at that. Thank you so much.